Chicago, the city of broad shoulders, where fans have borne the weight of years of frustration. This week, the Toronto Blue Jays invaded seasoned veterans determined to defend their World Series championship. These visitors were anything but gracious, though, sweeping the first two games and placing the World Series within range of an easy chip shot. You'd be smiling, too, at the thought of coming home. And in Toronto, the champions said, "Give us your best shots." And so they did. And so with a deep sigh of relief, the White Sox have started to apply the big hurt to Toronto. And it's Gaston whose team is gasping and it gropes for a way to just do it. Well, the battles of October are set to resume at Skydome in a series that has already made history of its own, as only the visitors have been able to win thus far. And on a cold October night by the shores of Lake Ontario, the fans will be comfortable inside, under the dome, and we hope you will too at home, as this series really begins to heat up. And hi again, everybody. I'm Pat O'Brien in New York City. Welcome back to our CBS Sports exclusive postseason coverage of Major League Baseball. We're getting set for Game 4 of the American League Championship Series, and even though the Chicago White Sox trail 2-1, they are loose, as evidenced earlier this evening by Tim Raines' willingness to oblige a Toronto fan with an autographed baseball. Threw it right up at him there. And here are the starting pitchers tonight. 22-year-old rookie sensation Jason Beret for the White Sox, and Todd Stottlemyre will go for the Toronto Blue Jays. Earlier today, Atlanta took a 2-1 lead over Philadelphia in the National League Championship Series with another offensive barrage. Kind of like the Home Shopping Network, the newest in tomahawk paraphernalia, 1995, but it was John Kruk who tomahawked this Tom Glavine pitch to the opposite field to give Philadelphia a 2-0 lead. Bobby Cox put the crime dog on the beat, and Fred McGriff made it 2-1. Still in the sixth, Dave Justice doubled home 2 runs just out of reach of Pete Incaviglia. That made it 4-2 Atlanta. And then Mark Lemke, the little man who always comes up big in the postseason, emptied the bases with that double as the Braves pummeled the Phillies again.
In the back of my mind, I kept thinking, just keep holding those guys right there and give these guys a chance to go to work, because sooner or later we're going to make something happen. And I don't think I quite expected the 9-run barrage that we got in the 2 innings back-to-back, but that's what we're capable of doing.
We took the attitude, keep pecking away. Something's going to happen. We're going to score some runs, and look what happened. We had a big inning. We didn't expect to see an inning like that, but everything just kind of caught fire, and we've done that quite a few times this year.
And a lot of pop in his back this season. Coming up next, though, Greg Gumbel and Jim Cott will join you from Skydome with the play-by-play of Game 4, the White Sox and the Blue Jays, right after this word from your very own local station. Enjoy the game.
Mother Nature has turned cold shoulder on the city of Toronto. Temperatures have dipped to 33 degrees. It rained most of the day and stopped in what our guys in the trucks are calling a major league chill. But inside the home of the Toronto Blue Jays, it is always a comfortable 68 degrees. That's the atmosphere for Game 4 of the American League Championship Series here tonight between the Chicago White Sox and the Toronto Blue Jays. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Toronto. I'm Greg Gumbel. The Toronto Blue Jays won the first 2 games of this series in Chicago. Back they came to Skydome, and last night the White Sox registered a 6-1 victory. I'm joined, as always, by my partner, Jim Cott. And Jim, Wilson Alvarez did a masterful job for Chicago last night. The White Sox are looking for an equally impressive performance from yet another youngster.
And if things continue, they may well get one. They started off with the graybeard Jack McDowell in Game 1, right? He's all at 27 years old. And now we get our first look at Jason Beret, 22 years old, led the American League in wins for a rookie pitcher with 12. He's a 36th round draft pick, been a pleasant surprise for the White Sox. Extremely hard thrower. And what Gene Lamont, the White Sox manager, can do tonight with Beret starting, Alvarez gave him 9 innings last night, he can go to that bullpen a little sooner than he may have, and he's got a good one. He has Kirk McCaskill, Tim Belcher, Scott Radinsky. We may even see his closer, Roberto Hernandez, for more than 2 innings. He might play this like a Game 7 situation.
Chicago will be opposed by Toronto's Todd Stottlemyre. Stottlemyre has been a starter twice in 2 previous ALCS games. Hasn't won, hasn't lasted beyond the 5th inning in either game. But Toronto leads this series 2-1, Jim. Still, there are some Blue Jays who aren't hitting the ball.
We've talked about their explosive lineup, and it is, but so far only Paul Molitor and John Olerud have been productive, and if the Blue Jays are going to win this thing, they have to get production out of those 3. 5 for 36 from Ricky Henderson, Roberto Alomar, and Joe Carter. They have to begin to produce for Toronto.
Who's got the momentum? Is it Toronto with a 2-1 lead? Is it Chicago coming off the big win last night? We'll find out what happens tonight when we come back to Skydome right after this.
Like yours.
At the start of Game 4 of the American League Championship Series, manager Gene Lamont has the same batting order out there that won for him last night. The leadoff man is left fielder Timmy Raines. He's followed by second baseman Joey Cora. For the second straight game, Frank Thomas is back at first base, and in the number 3 slot, Robin Ventura, the cleanup hitter, at third. Ellis Burks is in right field batting 5th. The designated hitter once again is Bo Jackson. In center field, Lance Johnson. Batting 8th is catcher Ron Karkovice, and at shortstop, Ozzie Guillen.
And the usual alignment for the Blue Jays since the acquisition of Ricky Henderson. He's in left field, Devon White in center, and Joe Carter over in right. Infield has Ed Sprague at third, with Tony Fernandez the shortstop, Roberto Alomar, and John Olerud over on the right side of the diamond. And Pat Borders the catcher. He catches Todd Stottlemyre, 28-year-old right-hander. Anytime Todd Stottlemyre goes to the mound, the Blue Jay fans and even Cito Gaston, I think, kind of scratch their head. What are they going to see? 28 years old, live arm, but he never really puts a lot of consistent starts back-to-back. And that's what the Blue Jays are going to have out of Stottlemyre tonight, is a good start going against this White Sox team that has an outstanding pitching staff.
The umpires for tonight's game. Ted Hendry will be calling balls and strikes behind home plate. Tim Cheetah is at first. Ken Kaiser at second. Jim Evans over at third. Down the left field line is Greg Kost. And down the right field line is the man behind the plate here last night in Game 3, John Shulock. Leadoff man is Timmy Raines. Base hits his last 4 times to the plate last night. 2 singles and then 2 doubles. A 500 hitter in the postseason, and Stottlemyre delivers the first pitch for a called strike. Tim Raines may be his way of expressing his displeasure with that first call. Takes a long, exaggerated walk, I'll say. Chopper up the first base line. Should be easy for Olerud, and it is. Here's Joey Cora, who also had himself a pretty good ball game last night.
I think Cora got the biggest hit in that 3rd inning, the 2-out, 2-strike single to allow Frank Thomas to come to the plate instead of leading off the 4th. We talked about the awesome attack with Ricky Henderson at the top of the Toronto lineup, but it's been Raines and Cora now in Game 3. That's set the table nicely.
That's a called strike. Raines and Cora last night combining for half of Chicago's 12 hits. Cora's 2 hits last night were his first 2 of the series. That's been fouled back, and it's 0-2. On deck, Frank Thomas. 1-2 now to Joey Cora, who hit .268 during the regular season. His 13 triples ranked second in the American League behind teammate Lance Johnson. Went down swinging. First of the night for Todd Stottlemyre, and you mentioned a live arm. That was a live fastball.
Threw Cora 3 fastballs and saved the best one for last in a perfect spot. He started this game off to Tim Raines with a big curve, and that'll be interesting to follow Todd's pattern as he faces the White Sox, throwing mostly curveballs and fastballs.
Stottlemyre starts Thomas with a fastball up and away for ball 1.
One of the troublesome pitches for Stottlemyre has been hanging the slider. In some games has eliminated that pitch and just gone with a slower overhand curve to complement his fastball.
2-0 now. You saw the graphic there. 7 bases on balls for Thomas in this league championship series. Ties him for the record. 1 more and he will own it. 2-1. Ricky Henderson on the flip side.
He'll more than double that by the time this series is over, even if it only went 5 games.
Two balls and a strike. 2-2.
Get a look at Todd Stottlemyre's breaking ball. There's the overhand curve. And catches the outside corner.
Shakes off Pat Borders, has in mind what he wants to throw. Thomas. It's a breaking ball away, and the count is now full at 3-2. Pat Borders has been all over the dirt in the first 3 games of this series. And I asked him if it was unusual. He goes, no, it's just another day at the office for me with this team.
Gets a little bit of a break with Stottlemyre. He doesn't throw the split finger, so not as many pitches in the dirt.
Ball 4. Thomas is on base, and there is a new LCS record. That is his 8th.
I first saw Frank Thomas when he was a junior at Auburn, and in his first at-bat, I asked his coach Hal Baird about that kind of discipline. That was so impressive to see a young power hitter lay off pitches that close to being strikes. And he's done that all, even through his college days.
Here's Robin Ventura. Takes ball 1 high. Ventura 0 for 2 last night, 1 for 8 in the series. And has struck out 5 times. That's outside 2-0. We told you last night, Robin and his wife Stephanie, they're proud parents of a brand new baby daughter, Madison. And talking with Robin down at the batting cage tonight, he says, Mom and daughter are going home tonight from the hospital. Sox manager Gene Lamont. Hit in the air, center field. Devon White has room, makes the call, makes the catch, and the White Sox are gone in the first. On a cold, crisp night in Toronto, we'll go to the last of the first, scoreless. Back for the bottom half of the first inning, manager Cito Gaston. He and the Blue Jays just said simply, we got beat by a good pitcher last night. Here is Cito's lineup for tonight. Ricky Henderson leads it off and plays left field. Devon White is in center. Robbie Alomar back to the number 3 spot. The second baseman, Joe Carter, is in the right. John Olerud at first. The designated hitter is Paul Molitor. Tony Fernandez at short. Ed Sprague is at third, and Pat Borders behind the plate.
And they'll face hard-throwing right-hander Jason Beret. With that 4-seam riding fastball, has an excellent changeup. To call it a fosh ball. Mike Boddicker threw one against these White Sox 10 years ago in the playoffs. It's really an off-speed forkball. And he has a curveball to complement that. Only question mark with Jason, can he throw strikes?
Here's Ricky Henderson. Barre's first pitch is a strike. Henderson and Raines, a contrast in leadoff men in this series. Coming in, Raines a .500 hitter. Henderson 1 out of 12. He got a double in the third inning last night. Strike 2.
He's answering that question rather quickly. Like Alvarez, won his last 7 starts of the regular season.
No problem, Ricky.
12 and 5, 3.47 earned run average on the season. And 3 good ones, and Ricky Henderson takes a seat on the bench.
See, the first time through the batting order is going to be key for Barre in that the Blue Jays have never seen him. This is the first look, and that's always the pitcher's advantage, I think, the first time you face hitters. That's a little better fastball maybe than they thought he had. And it'll be interesting to see if he works through the order the first time, what kind of adjustments the Blue Jays might make the second time through.
93-mile-an-hour fastball Ricky fans on, and here's Devon White. White 5 out of 13 in the series. Ball 1. White 1 out of 4 last night against Wilson Alvarez. Here's Wilson Alvarez in the black jacket.
He can yawn today. They won't be calling on him. They arrest.
Between first and second, base hit. Cora diving, failed to cut it off. First hit of the ball game.
White on the ground ball, and Frank Thomas immediately broke for the bag. You see, Cora has to go quite a ways to try to get leather on that ball, and off the turf, no chance. I would think one of the adjustments the White Sox would make with Barre being a hard thrower, have Thomas off the line and go for the ball. He came very close to having the chance to field that himself.
And Robbie Alomar to the plate, and along with Jason Barre and Ron Karkovice, we turn our attention to Devon White at first and his base stealing abilities. Ball 1.
Barre is above average at holding runners on, and when he throws that 92, 93-mile-an-hour fastball, coupled with Karkovice's throwing arm, it's a good combination to contain a running game. I think this is a game that Toronto has to begin to challenge Karkovice in situations like this. Granted, they did not get a lot of opportunities to run against Alvarez, but here early in this one, they have a chance.
Barre steps off, and Alomar steps out. Alomar, a rough go of it so far, just 1 out of 11. That's outside, 2-0. And you can see from his LCS history that 1 for 11 is very uncharacteristic for Roberto Alomar. Mickey Rivers, 386. Alomar misses the 2-0. It's now 2-1.
Mentioned Barre as a pleasant surprise. 36th round draft pick. That means he probably wasn't a high school star. Grew up just outside of Boston in the suburbs. Went to Wilmington High School there. And baseball was just sort of one of many things to do, but that live right arm earned him a shot to play professional baseball.
That evens the count now on Alomar, 2-2. Alomar back to swinging from the left side of the plate tonight after hitting right-handed against the lefty Alvarez last night. And as we pointed out last night, Devon White, Robbie Alomar, Tony Fernandez, all switch hitters, all better from the left side of the plate than from the right this year. Two balls, two strikes. And Beret again keeping an eye at first on Devon White. Jammed, Alomar fouled it back.
Not having seen a pitcher before, you see the Blue Jays take some pitches as Alomar did early in the count, but that high-riding fastball, that's the toughest pitch for a hitter to lay off. Beret has a good one, the four-seamer up in the strike zone.
Strike three call. Robbie Alomar says it's too high. Ted Hendry doesn't agree. Second strikeout of the inning for Jason Beret. Let's take another look.
A hitter's not accustomed to seeing many pitches above the belt called for strikes. Let's see where this one crosses the plate. You see Karkovice reach about eye level, but see his eye level is barely above the belt. That is within the confines of the strike zone. It's just a pitch you do not see called for strikes a great deal.
That was technically a letter-high strike.
Right.
And a 95-mile-an-hour strike, too. Here's Joe Carter. Two out now, and White at first. High and tight ball one. Carter, one of those Blue Jays, looking to hit better than he has so far. Just 3 out of 13 in the series. Made an outstanding catch against the wall in the first inning last night on a drive off the bat of Robin Ventura. Awful close at first.
Okay, Joe, no problem, man.
Quick feet and the throw right on target. White just got the arm in. Quick feet by Beret.
Ozzie Guillen out, calling, and now Johnson calls him off, and it's Lance Johnson who makes the catch. 2 strikeouts in the inning for Beret. We've completed 1, and we're scoreless in Toronto.
Tries to get back to the bag. His right hand hits Thomas right in the foot. And then the tag is applied, and he quickly reaches around behind the bag with his left and got the safe call.
Top of the second inning, Ellis Burks, Bo Jackson, Lance Johnson to face Todd Stottlemyre, and the count 1-0 now on Burks, who had a big 2-run single in the White Sox 5-run third last night.
Hey, Todd, ready to be bud?
Burks just 3 out of 12 in the series. That's high, 2-1.
You can see the contrast already in the two pitchers, even though Todd Stottlemyre, a bit of a veteran at 28. Deep breaths, try to calm himself down. He's a very intense individual on the mound.
Hard hit in the hole, base hit. Burks with the first Chicago hit of the night. Here's Bo. Bo created a bit of a stir after game 2, saying we're a bat short in the lineup. Gene Lamont inserted him last night, and Jackson struck out 3 times in an 0-for-4 night. We talked with Gene, and Gene said he was probably pressing last night to perhaps make good on his words, and he expects a little more out of Jackson tonight.
Come on, Todd.
Bo's problem last night, reaching outside the strike zone for pitches.
Well, no secret. David Cohn talked about it last night. American League pitchers will try to do it. The breaking ball down and away has such difficulty reaching for the ball because of the hip surgery, and he's vulnerable to the high fastball. And until he proves he can hit those, that's what he's going to see.
That's called strike 2, and now Bo doesn't like it.
So he's had pretty good success against Todd Stottlemyre, and that goes back to a lot of mistake breaking balls that Todd's been guilty of during his career, and that's what he's tried to eliminate here in the last part of the season. Go more slower overhand curves and more fastballs.
Down in the count now, 0-2. It's high and away, 1-2. Jackson hit .232 on the year, 16 homers. That misses outside and evens the count at now 2 balls and 2 strikes.
Have an eye.
Already early in the game, we've seen Todd Stottlemyre working White Sox hitters high and tight and then low and away. You were saying before we went on the air, Todd Stottlemyre is the kind of pitcher who is not at all afraid to back a hitter away from the plate.
Well, when you throw breaking balls down and away to keep hitters honest, you're also going to throw your share of fastballs up and in.
Here's one up and in.
In fact, from the time Abner Doubleday invented this game, you could have a pre-game meeting, pitcher and catcher. It's the same thing. High and tight, low and away. Get your breaking ball over when you're behind in the count, and you can get any hitter out in the big leagues. The trick is throwing him in those locations consistently.
Three and 2 the count. There goes Burks from first. Hard hit ball. Fernandez doesn't have a shot at second. Goes on to first for the out. So Burks running keeps the White Sox out of a double play.
And that's a bonus for the White Sox. Anytime they can get a productive out from Bo Jackson. Not a strikeout, but an out that advances a runner into scoring position because he is prone to the strikeout. 3 of them in last night's game.
And here's Lance Johnson. Hit in the air, deep to right field. Carter back to the wall, looks up, and it's gone. Lance Johnson did not hit a home run during the regular season. He went 540 at-bats, the most at-bats without a home run in the major leagues, and he clocks a 2-run shot here in the second to give Chicago the lead.
Lance Johnson, unusual as a left-hand hitter because he's a high ball hitter. And even though he's not accustomed to the home run trot, as soon as he hit that, I think he had a pretty good idea that was out.
That is only Johnson's 5th career home run. Here's Ron Karkovic. 1-0 the count. 1-1.
Stottlemyre's high fastball. And power from an unlikely source for Chicago.
Karkovic fouls it back, and it's 1-2. Check swing roller toward Olerud, who flips to Stottlemyre for the second out of the inning. I was talking with Gene Lamont before the game down in the dugout. I mentioned to him that his team had been in something of a home run drought. In fact, prior to that one, Bo Jackson had hit 3 of the last 4, and the last home run the White Sox had, and Bo had in Cleveland.
That's certainly not the guy they thought would break them out of it. I think that tells you a little bit about the adrenaline in postseason play. Guys getting pumped up a little bit. Increase the bat speed just enough to get it out of the park.
Ozzie Guillen takes strike 1. White Sox hit just 1 home run in their last 5 regular season games. High in the air, first base side, Olerud will chase it and won't reach it.
Talking earlier about Todd Stottlemyre's expression because he is so intense on the mound. Most of the time the battle he has is with his own emotions, just to try to stay under control. You contrast that to last night, the cool demeanor of Wilson Alvarez, and you'll see the same thing tonight from Jason Beret. That's why even at age 22 and 23, these guys are winning pitchers in the big leagues. Great composure.
0-2 on Guillen. Got him swinging on a high fastball. But Lance Johnson is the man of the hour for Chicago. The first home run of the season comes in Game 4 of the ALCS and gives Chicago a 2-0 lead.
I've seen those big...
Lance Johnson's 2-run homer has Chicago on top 2-0. We go to the last of the second, and here's John Olerud to face Jason Beret. And check swing foul on the first pitch, strike 1. Olerud 6 out of 12 in the series. A couple of RBIs and 3 runs scored. And the American League batting champion. Went inside, 1-1. What a dream season John Olerud had. 363, an on-base percentage of 473, 20-plus homers, 100-plus RBIs, 100-plus runs scored. And this one foul down the left field line. We had David Cohn doing our scouting reports for us. Here's how he says he pitched to John Olerud.
John Olerud, the difference between Johnny this year as opposed to last year is he's much more aggressive early in the count. He's not taking as many first pitch strikes as he did last year. He just absolutely murders off-speed pitches down and out over the plate. The one little bitty weakness that John might have is you got to try to go after him up and in with good hard fastballs.
And Olerud bouncing out to second for the first out of the inning.
Let's see if Jason Beret followed David Cohn's scouting report. Karkovice with the target inside, and even though that wasn't up as much, it was the life on that fastball that Olerud just topped it out towards second. And earlier in that sequence, you saw how late he was on Beret's fastball, fouling it down the left field line. It's going to take an at-bat at least for the Blue Jay hitters to find out what kind of stuff this youngster has.
94-mile-an-hour fastball got Olerud out, and here's Paul Molitor. Hit in the air to left field, Raines back on the warning track and makes the catch. Talked about Jason Beret and how young he is. Take a look at how he rates with the youngest ever to start an ALCS game.
What could make Jason Beret different than the other 3? They all started games. None of them won games. He would be the youngest to win an ALCS game. Probably came up from New England for the game.
Young man out of the state of Massachusetts.
And I say up because, well, I guess it would be down because Boston's actually a little north of Toronto.
Down there.
Down there.
Tony Fernandez takes ball 1. on the ground, knocked down by Ventura, can't make a play, and that'll go as an infield hit. The second hit of the night for the Blue Jays.
Sometimes you get penalized for being too quick. Lateral movement. And Robin Ventura got a glove on it. Had he not, I think Ozzie Guillen might have had a chance to make the play. They shade Fernandez around to the left side.
So Fernandez, and the White Sox will keep an eye on him. He stole 15 bases in 23 tries. Here's Ed Sprague. Swing and a miss. Sprague, a pivotal figure in last night's 5-run third inning for Chicago. Frank Thomas with a shot towards Sprague at third that was ruled a base hit. That being a charitable decision by the official scorers, it really, well, on the most part, would be considered an error. And the White Sox went on to score 5 runs. That's a ball, 1-1. That play by Sprague, or the misplay by Sprague, came with 2 out in the inning, and it opened the door for 5 Chicago runs. That's a high 2-1.
You wonder at 6'3", 185, why does Beret throw so hard? Look at the upper legs, strong legs, and the way he drives off the rubber. Look at all your power pitchers of the past, Tom Seaver, Nolan Ryan. They all have powerful legs, and they really drive off the rubber, as Beret does. That's as important as arm strength.
Why do they make those pitchers do all that running?
Now they do lifting.
2 balls and a strike. 2-2. Just to put a wrap on that play by Sprague at third, it's worthy to consider that Sprague was the 3rd best fielding third baseman this season. His fielding percentage, .955. 2-2 pitch inside, and the count is full. If Sprague should reach, Pat Borders will be next. Fernandez will be off from first with the pitch. There he goes. Full count pitch fouled off, and we'll do it again.
Talking with Chicago pitching coach Jackie Brown, who's done an outstanding job. Jackie pitched in the big leagues for Texas and Cleveland, and he was a curveball pitcher, slow curve. But he's done a great job with his staff, which is the deepest and the best in the American League. And he said, like all young pitchers, it takes about a half a dozen starts, even though you have a good arm, to believe in yourself that your stuff is good enough to get big league hitters out. And that was Beret's experience.
Fernandez goes, and again, a foul back.
You come up the first few times, and you're a little bit in awe of big league hitters, so you tend to throw the ball toward home plate and say, I hope they don't hit it. A little bit out of the strike zone here and there, and that's why, like Alvarez, he walked a lot of hitters. Then when he won a couple of games, he said, hey, my stuff's good enough to win. Now he's challenging hitters, and he's won his last 7, and he's getting his other pitches, the fastball and the curveball, over the plate as well.
And as you say, when you're facing a team for the first time, the big test will be the second time through the order. Three and 2 to Sprague. There goes Fernandez again. And this one is also fouled away. And Fernandez is going to have a couple of tired dogs by the time this inning's over.
Well, it's a good matchup on a 3-2 count for Toronto, because Ed Sprague is an excellent high fastball hitter. And he knows in this situation, all probability, that's what he's going to get, that 4-seam high rider. So it is power to power.
While Tony Fernandez is beginning to take his time getting back to first base there. There he goes. He takes off in the stretch and is around second. And the pop-up toward the dugout and out of play. Jason Beret completely lost track of Tony Fernandez.
He's going to steal 2 at a time.
Zoom.
See, nobody on first base with 2 out. Beret said, I'm going after the hitter. Now, Cito Gaston is going to argue that Fernandez had passed second, so he gets to return to second base, not to first base. And Ted Hendry is going to confer.
He's going to talk about it with Jim Evans.
Jim Evans, the crew chief, saying that he was already into his motion before he got to second base.
I don't think that's the case. I think Tony Fernandez had rounded second.
Have to say, I don't think I've ever seen that before. You could see him well into his motion before he got to second base.
Tony's pleading his case to Frank Thomas. I don't think he's going to find a sympathetic ear there. Gene Lamont just said, I've never seen that before.
Well, I like the White Sox approach. 2 out, 3-2 on the hitter, and a man on first, their backup. Go ahead and go after the hitter. Don't pay too much attention to the runner.
3-2, 2 out, swing and a miss, and this weird inning is finally over. We'll go to the third. It's 2-0 Chicago.
And Fernandez rounds second base. And as Gene Lamont, when you read his lips, I've never seen that before. He didn't either. And we're going to get a ruling whether the pitcher is in his motion or whether he has let go of the ball with the runner be entitled to second base. That's a new one.
Tony at shortstop, and we'll start the third with Tim Raines looking at strike 1.
And what got lost in all of that is a pretty courageous pitch by Beret. He went to the breaking ball on 3 and 2 to strike out Sprague to end the inning.
Beret has 3 strikeouts. Stottlemyre 2 as we start the third. There's a liner, fair ball down the right field line. Raines makes the turn, goes for second. Carter comes up throwing and won't get him. And now he's called out at second base. Here comes Gene Lamont, and the Chicago coaches are out there to discuss the issue as well and to hold Tim Raines back.
Terry Bevington and Doug Mansolino, the base coaches. Raines is livid with that call by Ken Kaiser. It was a pop-up slide, which is customary into second base. Terry Bevington says, key down, we need you in the ball game. It's early. Customary to go into second base like this with the pop-up slide. Foot hits the bag, you stand up, and what Raines is contending is that Fernandez pushed him off the bag, and he did. Now he puts the foot back, and Kaiser comes in and calls him out, so you could certainly understand Raines' argument. He didn't come off the bag from his own momentum. Reminds me a little of the play in the 1991 World Series involving first baseman Ken Herbeck of the Minnesota Twins and Ron Gant.
Ken Kaiser made the call,
and the same call was made in that series.
So give Raines a double. And Tony Fernandez gets the unusual putout. Here's Joey Cora swinging on the first pitch and fouling it off. Let's take one more look.
Let's see, if the momentum of Tim Raines' slide carried him past the bag, you could say, okay, he's out. But see, he's just standing up, front foot is down, and Fernandez kind of helps him off the bag. Of course, we get to see it in slow motion. Ken Kaiser had to make that call right on the call and right on the spot. He felt Raines' momentum took him off the bag.
Cora takes that inside, and it's 1-1. 2-1 now. You know, we're only in the 3rd inning, and we have seen our share of weird plays already tonight.
Boy, that's a big break for the Blue Jays. Tim Raines is on fire right now. It looked like a leadoff double.
Cora on the ground toward Alomar at second, and that's 2 out.
With the Chicago pitching staff, you get this team 3 or 4 runs. They've been the best in the American League at winning those games.
A full house at Skydome. Game 4 of the American League Championship Series. Greg Gumbel, Jim Cott. Top of the 3rd inning, and the big hurt puts it strike 1. Frank Thomas set an ALCS record with his 8th walk back in the 1st inning. Okay. 1-1.
See Todd Stottlemyre's approach. He's not afraid to challenge Frank Thomas, but he'll do it early in the count just to try to get a strike and then hope that he chases something.
That's inside, and it's 2-1. Scoring in this game, top of the 2nd inning, Lance Johnson, his first home run of the year. 2-run homer.
The White Sox fans tuned in late are blinking and saying, what? Lance Johnson?
Gumbel's out of his mind again.
Big hit.
Check swing in time, he did. And the count is full.
Big, strong guys have the arm strength to hold up on that bat, as Frank Thomas did right there. Of course, the reverse of that is when the big guys get those 34, 35 ounces started, it can be hard to slow them down. Thomas did it.
Remember, just before he got his base on balls in the 1st inning, he barely held off on a strike 3. And that's strike 3 call, and Thomas knows it. An angry Timmy Raines takes his place in left field, and we'll return to the Skydome after this word from your local station.
And Kaiser, how'd you make that call? Why? And Kaiser very patiently explaining why he made the call that he came off the bat.
There's a base hit to center field for Pat Borders. Borders, whose string of a hit in consecutive postseason games was snapped at 16 last night, starts a new one.
Well, you can see David Cohn's scouting reports are right on. Remember what he said last night about Pat Borders? He is ready for fastballs inside early in the count, and even though that wasn't hit particularly hard, he got the barrel on the 95-mile-an-hour fastball and got a hit.
And we'll go to the top of the order. Ricky Henderson, who went down on 3 strikes to lead off the Toronto first. And Henderson now 4 pitches, 4 strikes. Either Henderson, Alomar, or Carter has added to their numbers tonight.
Now at 5 for 39.
Looped in the left field. Raines coming on, makes the catch. And tries to throw back to first, and Borders is back in ahead of him.
Along with Ken Kaiser explaining that play to Tim Raines, the other unusual play that we had an inning ago with Tony Fernandez running on the pitch and almost getting around second base. The ruling on that is that no matter how far he goes around the bag, it is all one play. As if it were a foul ball, he has to go back. And you knew it would be that way if the ball was delivered before he got to the bag, but I don't know that we've ever seen it happen where he is past the base before the ball was delivered.
Here's Devon White. Gets around on that pitch and pulls it foul. There's a view from down the right field line.
In fact, as a player, you play this game and you're involved in that part of it, and a lot of those little rules, those little plays that don't happen very often, you just say, what happened there? What's the ruling on that? And I was talking with Jim Evans, the crew chief here, third base umpire, a couple of days ago about his umpiring school. He has one down in Florida and also one in the Phoenix area.
Outside.
He has invited several members of the media, broadcasters, to attend that school. And I told him I'm going to spend some time in Arizona this winter at that Arizona Fall League. And I'd be interested in spending time with umpire. It'd be very enlightening to find out some of those little things that happen about once every 10 years.
2-1. Jim Cox at umpiring school.
Well, left-hand pitcher. You remember a left-hand pitcher named Danny McDevitt, who was with the Dodgers for a while, later became an umpire. John Shulock, who is down the right field line tonight, is a former minor league player turned umpire. So not that I have aspirations to do that, but that's what some former players get into.
I can get you the cliff notes. 2-1, too tight. 3-1. Devon White is quietly putting together a pretty good LCS. He is 6 out of 14.
Dangerous here with a hole open between first and second.
That's ball 4, and Blue Jays now at first and second and 1 out. Out at second is Pat Borders, and on at first is Devon White. And the heart of the Toronto order is up. Alomar looked at a call third strike back in the first inning. He is 1 for 12 in the series. Strike 1. Before this inning is over, it could turn into a bit of an early test for young Jason Beret. Down the line, fair ball. Borders around third. He'll score. The play at third. No. Down to second. Alomar's in there too. Two to 1.
Not only 2-1 on the double down the left field line, but the lead run in scoring position, because Tim Raines gets over to the ball quickly, but he comes up throwing to third. Very little chance to get Devon White. But the play at second would have been the play to keep Alomar at first in the double play in order.
Here's Joe Carter. Line in the left field. Base hit. 2 runs will score. Toronto leads 3-2.
Good fastball hitter, and what's the name of that tune? Second time around, you get veteran hitters like Joe Carter and give him a look or two at a pitcher, and they'll make the adjustments. Carter did.
And 2 of the Blue Jays who have struggled, Alomar and Carter, have back-to-back hits, and Gene Lamont's going to visit the mound.
Two reasons for the visit, just to kind of calm the rookie right-hander down a little bit, give him a breather, change the rhythm of the game, and at the same time get his bullpen ready. We mentioned after the complete game last night, And looking at Jack McDowell, tomorrow night's pitcher, who can usually give you 8 innings of solid work and sometimes a complete game, Gene Lamont will make moves a little earlier in this one than he normally would.
Here's John Olerud. 1 out and a runner at first. Jays with 3 to take the lead. Down the left field line and foul. Olerud's 54 doubles this season, a team record. Beret throws over to first. Joe Carter will steal an occasional base. Throws off on the pitch, and it's 1-1. Here's Robbie Alomar. Prior to this inning, Robbie Alomar had 1 RBI in the series. Carter had none. They've accounted for the 3 here in the 3rd. And that one gets away from Carter. No, it hit Olerud. That one hit Olerud, and Carter will move up a base.
Again, the Blue Jays have Jason Beret on the run a little bit, and he tries to make a perfect pitch with that curve, catches Olerud in the foot.
And here's Paul Molitor. Molitor fly deep to left in the 2nd inning. And you see what he did this season with runners in scoring position, as is Joe Carter out at 2nd base now. That's high, ball 1. And Karkovice going to talk about it with Beret now. Pitchers in general, and maybe youngsters in particular, when they get into a jam, start to try to overthrow a bit.
We talked about it last night, the harder and harder syndrome. The harder you get hit, the more it is a temptation to say, okay, I'm going to run it. I'm going to throw it past him. I'm going to run it in there a little harder, and the results are not good. Beret is still throwing a fair amount of breaking balls, but said at the top of the game, that's really the only question mark is his ability to throw strikes, and you can bet Molitor's sitting on a fastball right here.
Two and 0. And now Beret struggling with his control. Through the first 2 innings, Beret had 9 balls compared to 21 strikes. This inning, 9 balls, 9 strikes.
Dangerous count to throw a fastball to Paul Molitor. He almost has to.
And he misses outside, and the bases are loaded. Gene Lamont in the Chicago dugout wondering, how far do I go with my youngster? as the Blue Jays threaten to break it open. Here's Tony Fernandez. He singled in the second inning.
You see how the White Sox will swing Fernandez way around to left field, and I think this second time around what the Blue Jays have found out about that good fastball, that's where they have to try to hit it.
That's up high. And Gene Lamont has seen enough. Only 3 times in 24 starts this year, Jason Beret failed to make it through 5 innings. But he won't do it tonight. Tim Belcher will be the new Chicago pitcher. We'll tell you about it when we come back to Toronto.
White Sox acquired Tim Belcher from the Reds just before the trading deadline in late July for one of their prospects, Johnny Ruffin, an additional player. And even with the game at 3-2 and the bases loaded, the White Sox have that deep bullpen. You see Tim Belcher saying, if it's hit to me, I'll go to home. They can keep it a close game. They have the pitching to stay in it, get out of this inning.
White Sox infield is not playing tight. That's ball 1. Ball 2.
The bullpens have been effective for both ball clubs.
Since coming to the White Sox, Belcher made 11 starts and 1 relief appearance. 2-1 now on Fernandez.
And not a bad man to bring out of the bullpen in this kind of a situation. Tim Belcher, a member of the 1988 Los Angeles Dodgers, world champions. So he is accustomed to this kind of pressure.
White Sox looking for the double play ball, and now Belcher and Karkovice will talk about the signs.
Yeah, bases loaded, man on second. You don't want anything left to doubt as to which sign you're using. Man on second, the sign sequence changes. You don't want to throw a catcher a fastball when he's looking for a changeup. That'll cost you a run quickly.
Two-one pitch. Ball 3. Joe Carter, the runner at third. Olerud at second. Molitor at first, and that's fouled off, and the count is full now at 3-2. One of the local Toronto writers was talking about the lackadaisical approach he felt from the Toronto crowd last night. No such reaction tonight. In fact, they're on their feet. 3-2 pitch to Fernandez. Swing and a miss, and a big strikeout by Belcher. And here's Ed Sprague, the 9th man to hit in the inning.
Sigh of relief for the White Sox. A perfectly thrown fastball in the outside corner. You see Fernandez with the defensive swing through it.
So Belcher comes on to strike out Fernandez, and here is Sprague. Ball 1. Sprague went down swinging to end the second against Beret. Back of the plate, Karkovice won't have room.
Look back on that swing of Tony Fernandez and what a pitcher tries to do in these situations, and a veteran like Tim Belcher does it well. As you know, the hitter's trying just as hard as you are. Bases are loaded, and as a pitcher, you're saying, I got to get out of this. And the hitter's up there grinding that bat, saying, I got to get a hit and knock in the run. So you try to transfer all the pressure to him, saying he's the one that's got the tough job.
That's when you get a defensive swing. 1-1 pitch, 2-1. Ground ball. Ventura makes the play, gets the force out, and Tim Belcher comes on to put out the fire. He gets Fernandez on strike, Sprague on a ground out. Toronto gets 3 and takes the lead.
Is sponsored by Budweiser.
The White Sox with 2 on a 2-run homer by Lance Johnson. Toronto comes back in the 3rd inning for 3, and that's how we stand as we head to the 4th inning. Welcome back to Toronto. Greg Gumbel along with Jim Cott. Let's see. Tim Raines was pushed off the base at second and called out. Lance Johnson hits a home run after hitting none during the regular season. Tim Belcher comes on and does a fine job in relief.
Well, that's the asset. That's what the White Sox have going for them the rest of this game. I mean, Jason Beret can say Brett Saberhagen and Vida Blue didn't win a game when they were in their early 20s either, so it's a learning experience for him. But for Belcher to get out of that inning, big boost for the White Sox.
And Toronto Blue Jays are just happy to see people like Robbie Alomar and Joe Carter swinging the bat strong. Robin Ventura takes ball 1 to start the 4th. And now 2-0. As Todd Stottlemyre looks to protect a 1-run lead. Ventura, Burks, and Bo Jackson to face Stottlemyre here in the 4th. White Sox would like to see Ventura begin to swing the bat the way he did, to the tune of 22 homers and 90+ runs batted in. Three and 1 now.
I would think that would be a problem for Robin. You mentioned the numbers, 22 home runs, 94 RBIs. He's always been an average hitter first, power hitter second. And when you hit in the cleanup spot, I think you put a little more pressure on yourself to try to hit the long ball.
There's a base hit to right field.
Again, that's why the job that Belcher did was so crucial for the White Sox, because Todd Stottlemyre has not been a consistent starter for the Blue Jays. And the White Sox have a chance to get right back in this game. Again, that important inning after your team scores, shut the opposition down. And we've seen pitchers not be able to do that in this series. McDowell and Guzman in game 1.
For the 3rd time in 4 innings, the leadoff man reaches against Stottlemyre, and he was the worst in the league in that department. Ground ball, Sprague to second for 1, to first, double play. Smooth as silk at third base. Ed Sprague starts the easy double play.
Ball hit sharply, but right at Ed Sprague. And he not only fields it smoothly, but he delivers the ball to Alomar so quickly that Robbie has plenty of time to complete the pivot.
Here's Bo Jackson, who grounded out to short in his only trip to the plate. Strike 1. And Bo doesn't like that call either. Bo, you might remember, had a problem with a pitch back in the 2nd inning. Or at least a call by plate umpire Ted Hendry. A ball and a strike. 2 out, nobody on, thanks to the double play, which went Sprague to Alomar to Olerud.
No problem, Todd.
2-1.
One more look at that double play, and watch how quickly Sprague throws the ball. See, that's what gives Alomar plenty of time, with Ventura bearing down on him, to make an easy pivot and an accurate throw.
That's inside, and it's now 3-1 on Jackson. Bo with a tough night at the plate last night. Struck out, walked, struck out, popped out, and struck out.
All right.
Big swing and a miss.
leading power hitter of the White Sox in this series, on deck.
Full count pitch, foul back. Cito Gaston.
Seldom see that expression change. Cito and his bench coach Gene Tennis next to him, and then pitching coach Galen Cisco.
Ball 4, and Jackson is on. Back in the second inning, Lance Johnson put the White Sox on top in most dramatic fashion. And went into celebration around first base. Became only the 7th non-pitcher to hit a home run in the postseason after failing to hit one during the regular season, and the first in ALCS history. Right now, he has a teammate at first and 2 out. And there's a called strike.
Temptation for a singles hitter that hits a home run, not accustomed to it, is to all of a sudden think he could start pulling the ball, hit for power. Might see him try to go the other way in this at bat.
And Bo has to dive back.
Pete Rose, not known for hitting home runs, did hit 3 home runs in a game one time.
And they've called a balk on Todd Stottlemyre. And here comes Galen Cisco out to the mound.
Take a look at what Tim Cheetah saw at first base as Galen Cisco makes a trip to the mound. He's looking back at Ken Kaiser, and of course Kaiser is the king of the box in the American League, and what Kaiser saw from his position is that Stottlemyre did a spin move. He didn't step directly toward first base, but to spin and throw at the same time is not legal, and Ken Kaiser picked it up. Again, that Pete Rose story, after hitting 3 home runs in one game, he bunted his first time out the next day. He said, I didn't want to get in the habit of thinking I could hit the ball out of the ballpark.
Stottlemyre balked just once during the regular season. Bo is now out at second with 2 out. And Lance Johnson looking at a tie ball game with a base hit. That's outside, 1-1. Strike. The Jays have Ricky Henderson in left, Devon White in center, Joe Carter in right, Ed Sprague, Tony Fernandez, Robbie Alomar, John Olerud third to first, Stottlemyre pitching to Pat Borders. In the air, left center field. Devon White, plenty of room, and makes the catch. The White Sox leave 1. We'll go to the last of the 4th. Toronto leads it by 1. We'll get out to Skydome a little earlier tomorrow. Game 5, 4 o'clock Eastern time, we're on the air. In Game 1 in Chicago, Paul Molitor led the way in a 7-3 Blue Jays win. Dave Stewart, king of the hill in Game 2 as Toronto shut down the White Sox 3-1. In Game 3 here last night, it was Wilson Alvarez with the complete game run. Chicago winning at 6-1, and we're in the bottom of the 4th inning now here in Game 4. Take your choice.
One of everything. And you've got plenty of selection here at Skydome. They've got quite a variety.
All right. Good eye.
Ball 1.
I would imagine that you have been out to the Hard Rock Cafe.
You imagine wrong.
I did.
But we still have time. We can see it right out over the right field wall.
As Pat Hempton said, last night's starter for the Blue Jays, who has not had a lot of success here, and he keeps getting asked about it. He said, I like pitching here. I'm comfortable here. It's futuristic. I like this place.
1-2 now, the count to Borders, who led off the 3-run third with a base hit. By the time the third inning was done, Blue Jays had scored 3 times to take the lead. Borders fouls it off. Here's Pat Hempton.
If this series were to go 7 games, the matchup again would be Pat Hempton and Wilson Alvarez.
1-2 delivery. Outside, 2-2.
Jack McDowell and Juan Guzman will come back in Game 5 tomorrow. Game 1 starters.
Borders in the air, right field, no trouble for Ellis Burks. 1 out. In the National League Championship Series, Atlanta a winner again today to take a 2-1 lead on the Philadelphia Phillies, with Game 4 tomorrow night, 8 Eastern time. First pitch coming at 8:29.
First strike.
See Fred McGriff's picture there. Boy, did he clock one the other night.
Go, Ricky!
Clocks one about every night. 4 or 5 guys in that lineup for Atlanta that can do that.
Ricky Henderson takes ball 1.
Phillies do also, but the Braves throw some outstanding pitching at you day after day.
Henderson with a strikeout and a fly ball to left. Fouls it back. 1-1.
Again, you see a pretty steady diet of fastballs from Tim Belcher headed toward home plate. Referred to pitching coach Jackie Brown for the White Sox, and one thing Jackie can help pitchers with is a curveball. He had a good slow curve himself. It's one of the things Tim Belcher tried to experiment with when he first came over to the White Sox, was not successful with it.
2-1.
But what it did for him, he said it showed him that the kind of pitcher I am is fastball changeup. If I throw too many breaking balls, I get in trouble. Hang one here and there. And so you'll see mostly power stuff, fastballs, and an occasional changeup.
Did Henderson hold up? He did not. And the count now is 2-2. Even the scoreboard here anticipated it a ball and made it 3-1 on the scoreboard before changing it.
Well, you see the front part of the plate. That's borderline. It's probably the toughest call the first base umpire has to make. From about 115 feet away, he has to judge whether that bat came through the hitting area. Tim Cheetah.
Now the count is full at 3-2.
You know, when we were kids, you played the old break the wrist rule. If you didn't break your wrist, it was a ball. Well, you could carry that bat all the way out to the pitcher's mound and never break your wrist. But now, if the barrel crosses home plate, the umpire will ring you up.
The kids in my neighborhood who hit the ball and never broke their wrists. 3 balls, 2 strikes to Ricky Henderson. Hit hard down the right field line. Burks gives chase. It is drifting foul and out of play. Ricky really hasn't found a groove in this series.
This was the time of year I think all of us thought Ricky was really going to shine. He has not been much of a factor at all for the Blue Jays, even during the regular season.
Another 3-2 pitch from Belcher. Again into right field. Burks comes on. Cora out. Ellis Burks makes the call. And that's out number 2.
When Pat Gillick made that trade just before the trading deadline, giving up an outstanding young pitching prospect, right-hander Steve Carsey, he's going to be a star for the Oakland Athletics. And even Gillick at the time wanted a pitcher, but there wasn't one available, and he thought acquiring Henderson would improve the ball club in some way. But I don't think Ricky has performed the way they thought he would since coming over here, and especially in the postseason.
Henderson now 1 out of 15 in the LCS. That's an .067 batting average. Here's Devon White with a hit and a walk in 2 trips to the plate. Showed bunt. Took it inside for ball 1. Tuno.
Pat Gillick in the executive box. He is back with the colorful Argyle sweater. Back to the camera.
Ground ball past Thomas down the right field line. White around first, and losing it down the right field line is Burks. Devon White around third and will be held there. And Cora runs it in to the infield. Two things on this play: the way Burks played it down the right field line, but maybe a tentative Frank Thomas at first.
That's our first look at the injury to Frank Thomas. Watch the glove hand, the left arm. You see, that's a very, very short reach. Did not dare to extend that. That's the arm where he has the injured tricep. And then Burks bobbles it all the way to the corner. White is held at third, but with a healthy left arm, that's a ball that I think Frank Thomas can reach and get leather on.
Here's Robbie Alomar. Called strike. Down in the right field corner.
He's got quick feet too.
And Ellis Burks wasn't ready for it. We're still waiting for a ruling as to whether it's a double and an error or a 3-base hit. Whatever it is, Devon White continues his torrid hitting in this series. It's ruled a triple. White on third with 2 out. Alomar follows it back. 0-2. They're considerably more excited tonight.
That started with Dave Winfield last year. This has always been a very polite, quiet crowd. Supportive, obviously. They fill it up every night. Dave Winfield wanted him to get into the game a little bit more. Now, 3/4 of the way through last year, he challenged the fans, and they responded, making more noise.
Ground ball, Cora at second. On to first, and the Blue Jays strand a runner at third. 4 complete. The nimble-footed man down the right field line sees the Blue Jays on top 3-2. Has done a terrific job of keeping pace with the changing face of a baseball team in these times, Jim.
The Blue Jays draft and sign a lot of talent, and then they trade them off for established players.
Karkovice hits the first pitch to short. Tony Fernandez on to first for out number 1.
For a long time, Pat Gillick's nickname was Stand Pat, but not anymore. Since the late 80s, he began to bring in Mike Flanagan, Bud Black, Tom Candiotti. Here came Jack Morris, Dave Winfield. You could see through trades and free agents. That's how the Blue Jays have built a champion. Only 7 draft picks on this roster. Quite a contrast from the Chicago White Sox.
Impressive resume hanging there. Ozzie Guillen, strike 1. And now Ozzie doesn't like the call. And is going to discuss it in the only way that Ozzie can.
Ted Hendry's been very consistent the entire night. It has been a pitcher's strike zone. And that's usually what both pitchers and hitters look for at the start of the game. Is it going to be a little tighter tonight than usual? And All you want to know is what it's going to be, and is it going to be consistent the whole game, and you can make the adjustments.
Tapped foul. 0-2.
Of course, Ozzie wouldn't be that concerned with the strike zone anyway, because he doesn't walk. He's up there hacking. He's not going to draw base out balls.
Ozzie considers it an insult to take ball 4. He walked just 10 times in more than 450 at-bats this year. And down goes Ozzie. Talked to Ozzie before the game about Todd Stottlemyre, is what he said.
Stottlemyre, you got to keep, get it going early. He's a guy, you let him go and pitch more than 6-7 innings. He's a guy, he got to throw his best pitch he have. He's a real competitor. He's a tough guy up the mound. He's a winner, and you got to beat him up. I think you're not going to give up 1 inch, and you have to take every pitch in advantage.
White Sox got to Stottlemyre for 2 runs in the second, and that's been it. Outside, 2 balls and 2 strikes now.
He said once he gets past 6 or 7 innings, Cito Gaston would be very happy if he gets 6 or 7 innings out of Todd Stottlemyre.
2-2 pitch. Foul back.
Interesting, that shot of Pat Gillick, the Blue Jays general manager. Pat, with a baseball background, played for the great Rod Dado at Southern Cal, was a pitcher, and his counterpart, Ron Schuler, former teammate of mine with the Philadelphia Phillies. Schu also a pitcher and the general manager of the White Sox, but they have built their team different ways.
Two pitch to Guillen. Fouled up the first base line.
Similar to Cito Gaston, and despite all of the hype over the battles with George Bell and Bo Jackson, he has maintained that stoic personality.
When fouled at the plate, Borders couldn't hold on.
I loved his comment. Reminded me of an old Charlie Dressen story, but when they confronted Lamont and said that 11 players on his ball club didn't like him, he said, I just gave the clubhouse man a baseball. I said, take it around and get autographs and say it's for the manager. And when I look at it, the 11 names that aren't there, I'll know those are the guys that don't like me. So he was taking it in stride.
Another 2-2 pitch for Guillen. Got him swinging. Second time tonight, Guillen has gone down on strikes.
Maybe a bit of effect of that knockdown pitch earlier in the count, because watch how Guillen reaches for that. Didn't dive into it, but a very defensive reach for it. That sometimes can be the effect of a pitch up and in earlier in the count.
Here's Tim Raine. An unusual play back in the 3rd inning. Here's a called strike. Raine singled and went on to second, slid in, appeared to be there, and then the sweeping tag by Tony Fernandez brought his foot off the base. Ken Kaiser ruled him out. Mr. Raines is none too happy about it. He stands in 1 for 2 tonight. And hits this one to straightaway center field. Devon White will pull it in. The White Sox go in order in the top of the 5th. We'll go to the last of the 5th. The Blue Jays lead it 3-2. This copyrighted telecast is presented by authority of Major League Baseball and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form without the express written consent of Major League Baseball. We go to the last of the 5th inning. Toronto leading it 3-2. Joe Carter, John Olerud, Paul Molitor to face Tim Belcher. And that's tight, ball 1. part of the press corps in attendance for the ALCS. Foul ball.
That was Dave Winfield's plea last year. Joe Carter has taken it up, and he's going to get some new lumber. Carter and Belcher faced each other often enough in their battles around baseball, both in the National League and the American League.
One and one. The count on Carter. The two-run single back in the third inning. Hit deep but foul. Here's part of the White Sox brass, and the striped shirt is Jerry Reinsdorf, and to the right of your picture there is the head of the Baseball Players Association, Donald Fear.
Be fun to listen into that conversation. Phyllis Marriage of the American League also in the picture with co-owner Eddie Einhorn.
Carter fouls it off. Also up there, but not readily visible, is Ron Schuler, White Sox general manager. Two balls, two strikes to Carter. Ball three. Talk about the job that Pat Gillick has done. Ron Schuler's done an awful good job.
Mentioned building teams in different ways. The White Sox have done it with an outstanding scouting system. Drafted a lot of talent, and they've arrived at the big leagues in a hurry.
Pop foul. Karkovice will chase it, but won't have a chance to reach it.
I don't think there's any other team in the major leagues these days that can look at those names and the years they were drafted, one right after the other. Jack McDowell, Ventura, Thomas, and Fernandez, all right here. Scott Ruffcorn, another pitcher on the verge, and Eddie Pearson, a power-hitting prospect down in the minor leagues, may not be far away. They have drafted well.
There's Jack McDowell, who will start tomorrow. Carter pops this one back of the plate, and this one is out of play.
We add that to Jason Beret, tonight's starter, even though he had an off night tonight, 12 wins during the year. He helped them win the American League West, 36th round draft pick.
Stubborn trip to the plate for Joe Carter right here. He fouls another one off.
Oh, did he hit the camera? What did he hit?
Well, you can see his reaction right after the pitch. Anytime a hitter fouls a pitch straight back, they know they just missed it. They're right on time.
That one didn't just miss. 10th pitch of this at bat, and he'll get an 11th. Now Joe's going after it. Now Joe's going after the camera on the third base side. Carter making Tim Belcher work here, leading off the last of the fifth. That's ball four. Pretty good at bat for Joe Carter.
Boy, he earned that walk.
Greg Gumbel, Jim Cott at Skydome in Toronto. Game 4 of the American League Championship Series. Lance Johnson's two-run homer in the second inning put Chicago up 2-0. The Blue Jays came back with 3 in the third. An RBI single by Robbie Alomar. A two-run single by Joe Carter.
And remember what David Cohn and everyone else says about John Olerud. Much more aggressive early in the count.
Ball 1. Olerud will be followed by Molitor. Toronto 3 runs, 6 hits, no errors. Chicago 2 runs, 4 hits, no errors. Ball 2. Belcher came on in relief of Jason Beret back in the 3rd inning with the bases loaded and 1 out. Struck out Fernandez and got Ed Sprague to bounce into a force out to end the inning. That's ball 3. He allowed a Devon White triple in the 4th, but stranded him, and has now walked Carter to start the 5th inning and has gone 3-0 to Olerud. And then he's got Paul Molitor to deal with. One. Right center field, not deep. Johnson coming on. Burks coming on, and it's Lance Johnson. That's the center fielder's call.
Burks making the call, says I've got it, but the center fielder's the quarterback. And Lance Johnson says I'll handle that one.
Here's Molitor, 0 for 1 with a walk in the middle of that 3-run 3rd inning.
Do about anything you want to with Paul Molitor at the plate. If you're Cito Gaston, you want to play hit and run, he could poke it through that hole between 1st and 2nd. Like Carter made a brief move towards 2nd as if it might have been on. Jose De Leon begins to loosen in the White Sox pen.
Now to Molitor. Karkovice will give it a look, but it's about 15 rows back.
Talked this series about the compact swing of Paul Molitor, and there's a look at it, but it's also gives you an idea of Tim Belcher's fastball. Got in on Paul a little bit. Not many pitchers do that.
Alongside Frank Thomas. Frank Thomas said toward the end of the game last night he was a little bit tired, not having played first base for a while, and maybe playing on the carpet has a little bit to do with it as well. Said his legs felt heavy. The bunt. Belcher to first, got him.
Boy, that's a nice play by Tim Belcher. I mean, that was a bunt for a base hit. I think Molitor felt that he could catch the White Sox by surprise. Drops it down toward 3rd and deadens it perfectly, but Belcher quickly off the mound and throws all in one motion. And then right at the end, Molitor catches a piece of Frank Thomas at first base. Just got him on the back of the foot.
No sacrifice given to Molitor on the bunt. Carter is on at second, and now Tony Fernandez is going to get the free pass.
I guess this is what is a bit surprising, that Paul Molitor did bunt. Of course, he was bunting assuming he would beat it out, but now that he didn't, it gives the advantage to the White Sox. They can pitch around or walk Tony Fernandez and go at Ed Sprague, the number 8 hitter. As you can understand Molitor's thinking, had he bunted successfully, Fernandez with a couple of men on would be an excellent man to have at the plate. Gene Lamont and Joe Nossick, his bench coach.
So Fernandez is on. Runners at first and second. Ed Sprague steps in at 0 for 2. Sprague has ended an inning in each of his 2 previous at-bats. And he hits this one in the air. He'll end this one as well. Cora making the call and the catch. 5 innings played, 3-2 Blue Jays. Will return to the Skydome after this word from your local station. Games on CBS. The Giants in Washington, Chicago, Philly, Dallas and Indy, Tampa Bay and Minnesota. And it all gets underway with the NFL today at 12:30 Eastern. Terry Bradshaw and Jim Nance from our studios in New York. The NFL today, all you need to know. Joey Cora takes strike 1. 2 previous postseason starts, Todd Stottlemyre failed to make it through the 5th inning. He gets underway here in the 6th. Ground ball hard. Olerud keeps it in front of him, flips to Stottlemyre for the out.
Frank Thomas coming up, and we've talked about the swing of Paul Molitor, the short compact swing, and then one of the best power hitters in the American League. Let's look at the difference. First, Paul Molitor, short stride, the knee will barely move and the back foot will stay stationary. He spins through the ball, spins the hips, very compact. He's quick on the inside pitch. Now watch Frank Thomas. Longer stride, a lot more movement in the knee, and he will push off with the back foot. A lateral slide through the ball to generate some power. Here's a look at that swing. Watch the back foot come off the ground. That's why he's a little more vulnerable to the inside pitch than Molitor. But don't get it out away from him.
Thomas walked in the first, looked at a 3rd strike in the 3rd. And there's that big swing, and he follows it back 0-2.
Watch the long stride, and that back foot comes right off the ground. He's hitting against a firm front leg.
Oh-2 pitch. Held off. 1-2. Tight. That evens the count now at 2 balls and 2 strikes. Stottlemyre has done a good job of working the ball in and out tonight.
Well, what he's doing tonight that he hasn't done consistently in the past is he is challenging hitters. He's not finding himself in too many 3-1 counts.
That one hit a mile in left center field. Tie game. Home runs during the regular season, his first since the 11th of September, and Chicago pulls even at 3.
Ouch. Now you know where he got his nickname. Dubbed by White Sox broadcaster Ken Harrelson, and you see where that pitch was? Back foot comes off the ground. Anywhere out over the plate, forget about it.
Here's Robin Ventura. Ground ball down to first. Olerud will play it himself for out number 2. Ricky Henderson just jogged toward the left center field fence, but I think it was just to get a better look.
Oh, you recognize that sound. Pitchers and fielders as well. You know, it looks like he hits the ball with one arm, but watch this shot right here. See, at point of contact, both hands are on the bat. Ball just makes contact. Both hands are on the bat, but because he gets such extension, and watch the eyes, the head down on the ball, he gets such extension with that bottom arm that the top hand has to come off the bat. We see the same thing from Fred McGriff.
443 feet, we are told, that ball traveled. That one skips past. Ellis Burks is a 1-for-2 hitter tonight, a single and a double play ball. And the White Sox, who have been in a home run drought, have hit 2 tonight. Johnson, a 2-run homer in the 2nd, and Thomas, the solo shot here in the 6th. Inside.
Lance Johnson probably walked over to Frank and said, now you're tied with me, big boy. We each got one long ball.
Glad I showed you how to do it. Come on. 3-1 now. You saw them side by side, the 2 home run hitters, and now Lance will take a walk. Pitch. Ball 4. So Burks is on, and that'll bring Bo Jackson to the plate. That's the 3rd walk given up by Todd Stottlemyre tonight. I told you September 11th was the last time Frank Thomas hit a home run. It's also the last time the White Sox hit 2 home runs in a game. Ball 1 to Bo.
Beginning to see the effect of Frank Thomas's home run in the tie game. All of a sudden, just like that, Todd Stottlemyre isn't a challenging type pitcher anymore. Goes to 3-1 and walks Burks, and now well out of the strike zone to Jackson.
Come on, Todd.
Chicago White Sox fan on hand here. Pitch. 2-0. In fact, made reference a couple of times to that article in the Toronto Globe and Mail this morning that the fans here were so passive that Chicago fans showed up in White Sox jackets and construction helmets and reported very little abuse, verbal or otherwise. They treat you nice in Canada. 2 balls, no strikes to Bo Jackson. Ball 3. And Galen Cisco going to trot out to have a talk with Todd Stottlemyre.
Cito Gaston slow to get the bullpen ready. I'm sure very comfortable with the way Todd Stottlemyre was throwing the ball until Frank Thomas's home run. Could almost read his lips. Yeah, I feel good. Of course. Pitcher's never going to tell you don't feel good. He wants to stay in there. If he doesn't, you don't want him on your staff.
It's Al Leiter throwing in the bullpen for Toronto.
Danny Cox pitched 3 effective innings in last night's game, and Mark Eichhorn was in there. So Leiter and Mike Timlin would be the logical choices at this stage of the game. Timlin, a right-hander.
One thing about Stottlemyre in the pitch count, he's approaching 90. This is number 88. That's ball 4. Burks moves down to second. Jackson is on at first. Joey Cora began this inning bouncing out first baseman to the pitcher covering. And then Thomas hit a 443-foot homer. After Ventura grounded out to Olerud, Stottlemyre has now issued back-to-back walks to Burks and Jackson. And here is Lance Johnson.
Looked like Cito was thinking about taking a walk to the mound. Came off the bench and stopped.
Johnson homered in the second, fly to center in the fourth. And puts a charge into this one, right center field. Devon White on the run. Can't get it. 2 runs will score. Johnson on his way to third with a triple, and the White Sox take the lead 5-3. Lance Johnson led the American League in triples for the 3rd straight year, 14 of them during the regular season, and this one is worth 2 RBIs in the Chicago League.
A home run and a triple, and this one puts the White Sox on top. Again, another fastball up, and I think Cito wishes that he would have continued that walk. After Bo Jackson walked, Gaston got off the bench, stopped at the top step. Devon White, a valiant effort to try to grab that ball. Remember, he was playing over in left center field. And had to run a long ways to the wall out in right center.
Had Cito taken that walk, he would have brought the left-hander Leiter in to pitch to the left-handed hitting Lance Johnson. Karkovice in the air to left field. Henderson is there. And the White Sox are out, but not before putting 3 on the board with some heavy hitting. We'll go to the last of the 6th. Chicago in the lead, 5-3. Along with Jim Cott, Greg Gumbel, welcome back to Skydome here in Toronto. The White Sox, with 3 in the top of the 6th inning, have taken a 5-3 lead. We'll go to the last of the 6th inning, and Lance Johnson has been the hitting hero for the Chicago White Sox with a home run, a triple, and a career-high 4 runs batted in. Pat Borders, Ricky Henderson, Devon White to face Tim Belcher here in the last of the 6th.
And here's where that White Sox bullpen comes into play. Belcher got out of that bases loaded 1-out situation back in the 3rd inning. And now with a 2-run lead, you can watch Gene Lamont try to piece this thing together from here on out with Kirk McCaskill, Scott Rudinsky getting to Roberto Hernandez.
1-1. Chicago with 5 runs and 6 hits. Toronto 3 runs, 6 hits. But 2 of the Chicago hits have been home runs, and another a 3-base hit.
He's never been accused of a quick hook, Cito Gaston. You could see the White Sox pitchers. That's the view the Blue Jays have in their dugout of the White Sox bullpen.
And Belcher now runs the count to 3-1 on Borders.
But Cito has always been very, very patient with his starters. And he went 1 hitter too long with Todd Stottlemyre. That's Rudinsky and McCaskill up in the Chicago bullpen.
3-1 pitch. Now 3-2. Some emotional twists and turns in this game. Lance Johnson's home run in the 2nd inning put them on top, as you see McCaskill and Rudinsky. And then 3 for Toronto in the 3rd. White Sox come right back to tie and then take the lead in the 6th. Line drive, Cora after it, and is there. Not a hard hit ball, soft liner, but Cora made the play for out number 1. To the top of the order, and Ricky Henderson, 0 for 3. expect the Toronto offense to be triggered by this man, but it hasn't happened in this series, not yet.
If it doesn't happen in this at-bat, it's going to be a little bit tougher, because the next time Ricky comes around, he'll probably be looking at Roberto Hernandez. That's how he's compared with Tim Raines in this series.
Good eye, Ricky. Down and in, 2-0. Henderson a strikeout and 2 fly balls tonight. 2 balls and a strike now.
Ricky thought it was low, like it went across the kneecaps.
Now 3-1. On deck is Devon White, who has singled, tripled, and walked, and who has generally been a thorn in the Chicago sides in this series. Full count now to Henderson. And if there has been a break for the White Sox in this series, and it's through their own doings, they've pretty much kept Ricky Henderson off the base paths and really not had to worry about it.
This Toronto team was more powerful when White and Alomar were at the top of the lineup in the last couple of championship series.
Ricky, a career .318 hitter in ALCS play starting this series. But is just 1 out of 15 as he stands in there now. Ball 4, and he's on base. Lance Johnson's 2-run homer in the 2nd inning put Chicago on top. In the 3rd, Robbie Alomar singled Pat Borders across to cut the lead in half, and then Joe Carter's base hit plated 2 teammates and gave the Blue Jays the lead. Frank Thomas homered in the 6th to tie it. Lance Johnson tripled 2 across to give the White Sox the 5-3 lead they now own. And here's Devo with Henderson on at first and 1 out. And that one goes through Karkovice. Back to the screen, and Henderson is down to second. Give Belcher the wild pitch.
58-footer. Karkovice moves the body, but the ball never came up, stayed down. And I'm sure going through Gene Lamont's mind, all the problems Toronto's had with left-handed pitching. He has the 2-run lead. And Scott Radinsky ready in the bullpen to turn some of those switch hitters around to the other side.
Ball 2. Henderson stole 3rd yesterday, last night in the game against Wilson Alvarez. Stole 3rd 15 times during the regular season. Ball 3. Some pretty impressive numbers put up by Devon White.
And that's the 1-2 hitters of the Blue Jays in the past couple of years. They thought the addition of Ricky would add to that, but it hasn't.
White has boosted his numbers to .387 with his 2 for 2 tonight. 3-0 pitch. 3-1. Roberto Alomar will be next. Count now full at 3-2. Tap down the first base line. And Frank Thomas let Belcher make the play.
That was some play. A lot of indecision there and quick reaction by Tim Belcher. Looked like a breaking ball to Devon White, who has great speed. Belcher has to get over there in a hurry, and then Frank Thomas is ready to field it. Belcher picks it and taps the bag.
And now Gene Lamont out to visit Tim Belcher on the mound as Robbie Alomar comes up. Robbie Alomar, the author of one of the more dramatic home runs in ALCS history. Last year, Game 4, Dennis Eckersley on the mound.
Look at Terry Steinbach's target, and then look where the pitch was. It'll remind you a little bit of Kirk Gibson's.
And a drive hit to right field. Sierra going back, looking up, and this game is tied. Roberto Alomar with his second home run in as many days.
Roberto Alomar tying the game. The Blue Jays coming back from a 6-1 deficit to tie it. They won it in extra innings, 7-6. 2 out, Ricky Henderson at third. 5-3 Chicago. One and 0. Tim Belcher came on with the bases loaded and 1 out in the 3rd inning, and by and large has been pretty impressive tonight. He has allowed just 1 hit. Foul ball.
It's always an inning of decision for a manager. Some refer to it as the bridge inning, bridge from the starter to the bullpen. Now in this case, Belcher was not the starter, but he has done a good job. You referred to relieving starter Jason Beret, but to get through the 6th for a manager, then he feels comfortable going to his bullpen. Doesn't like to do it earlier than that. Over the course of a season, that'll wear a bullpen out.
2-2. Alomar, the tying run as he stands in at home plate. Joe Carter is on deck. 2-2 pitch to Alomar. Liner, base hit down the right field line. 5-4 game. Alomar makes the turn. Burks' throw to second and won't get him.
Starting to come to life, Roberto Alomar. Not going to hold him down for an entire series, especially from the left side of the plate. And he was one of the 3 we mentioned that had to begin to produce, along with Henderson and Carter. And each have RBIs in this game.
And here's Joe Carter. Alomar at second, the tying run. Foul ball. In the regular season, Carter only hit .254, but tremendous numbers in home runs and runs batted in. 33 homers, 121 RBI. Bounced it in. Robbie went halfway and went back to second.
Good job by Karkovice. Again, you begin to see the pressure of championship series baseball. You nurse a 1-run lead, you try to keep the ball down, you want to make sure you really get it down. And that's a couple of pitches this inning that Tim Belcher's thrown about 58 feet.
Base hit left field, range charging. Alomar's going to come, the throw to the plate, and he is out. out. Tim Raines with the perfect throw to the plate to cut down Alomar, the would-be tying run. Take another look as we take a timeout. We've played 6 at Skydome. Chicago 5, Toronto 4.
Davis sends the runner home with 2 out, but watch what Ron Karkovice does in receiving the throw from Tim Raines. Right out in front of the plate. He gets over here into the line, into the baseline, so Alomar has to go around him. That makes that trip a little bit longer and enables Karkovice to make the tag. Well, you see it so often nowadays as catchers catch the ball so far out in front of the plate. They give the base runner a clear shot.
Chopper over the mound. Fernandez going to have to hurry to get Guillen, and he doesn't make it. Infield hit for Ozzie Guillen. So after 2 strikeouts facing the new pitcher Al Leiter, Guillen starts off the 7th with a high chopper that he beats out for an infield hit.
And could be an important hit for the White Sox. No chance for Fernandez. He plays it as well and as quickly as he can. But talk about the White Sox leading the American League in sacrifice bunts, and with Raines and Cora at the top of the lineup, they'll try to get another runner into scoring position.
So Leiter comes out of the bullpen and immediately has to work from the stretch as he faces Tim Raines. He switches around to the right side. The bunt popped up and fouled. This is Al Leiter's 2nd appearance of the series.
Al Leiter acquired from the Yankees a few years ago. Remember, the Blue Jay outfield for years was George Bell, Lloyd Mosby, and Jesse Barfield. They were fixtures here. Blue Jays traded Barfield to the Yankees for Al Leiter. He has survived some arm injuries. 2 effective innings in game 1.
Move to first. Tim Raines at the plate, and this game has just been one adventure after another for Timmy Raines tonight. Raines laid down a sacrifice bunt twice during the regular season. Pitch out. Guillen stays.
A lot of times, if you're considering a hit and run as a manager, the best time to do it is after a pitch out. How many times you see a team pitch out back to back? Raines a good enough contact hitter.
Swings away, blooper down the right field line. Carter on the run, it falls safely. Guillen moves to 3rd, and the White Sox start off the 7th inning with runners at the corners and nobody out.
Raines swung at this as if he thought the hit and run was on. Guillen never broke, but watch the swing. See, that's very much by design. He's looking out toward right field. Carter charges, then realizes if he doesn't give ground, the ball's going to bounce over his head, and that would have been a triple. So he has to play it conservatively, and that allows Guillen to get to 3rd base easily.
And here's Joey Cora, who laid down a sacrifice bunt in game 3 last night with 2 strikes on him. Did perfectly, and Gene Lamont said have no hesitation whatsoever about having Cora do that. He's an excellent bunter. Cracks his bat as he rolls it foul up the 3rd baseline, and he'll get a new one.
We had this situation in a previous game, and it happens so often with a hitter at the plate that doesn't have a lot of power, in this case Joey Cora. You can get a run home so easily and stay out of the double play by just pushing a bunt down toward the 2nd baseman. Al Leiter's a left-hand pitcher. He falls off to the 3rd base side. John Olerud is holding Tim Raines at 1st, and look at all that space on the right side of the diamond. Just a bunt pushed in that direction gets the run home and stays out of the double play.
This will be Leiter's last play.
Cora takes a good look at Terry Bevington up third baseline. Two hits last night, 0 for 3 tonight. Slow roller. Fernandez only played at first. In time, Olerud makes the tag, and Ozzie Guillen slides home with run number 6 for the White Sox. Toronto got a run back in the bottom of the 6th. Important for Chicago to put one on the board here in the 7th.
And Cora's infield out just as effective as if it were a bunt. More life in that Chicago dugout than the first 2 games at home.
Six-4 lead. Frank Thomas is going to watch 4 wide ones here and take a walk to first base. They do remember what he did his last trip to the plate.
Must have plenty of White Sox fans here because you could hear the chant of MVP in the background.
Back in the 6th inning with the score 3-2 Toronto and 1 out. Todd Stottlemyre was pitching to Frank Thomas, and as they say, got one into his wheelhouse. Here's how it looked.
Boy, you can see Stottlemyre look toward the ground immediately. He recognized that sound. That's a horrible sound to a pitcher.
So Thomas with the intentional walk, and here's Robin Ventura. White Sox 6, Blue Jays 4. Chicago looking to even this ALCS at 2 games apiece with a win tonight. Foul ball. We trust Robin's wife Stephanie and daughter Madison are home safely from the hospital by now, and Robin would like to get Tim Raines home safely. Chopper toward third. Sprague throws to second for 1 and gets no more. Thomas forced at second, and that's the second out of the inning. And Cito Gaston going to take a walk to the mound. Not going to let Al Leiter pitch to the right-handed hitting Ellis Burks. We'll take a timeout. Mike Timlin on his way in from the Toronto bullpen. We'll tell you about him when we come back. Chicago with a run in the top of the 7th inning and 2 out, and Mike Timlin has come on with runners at first and third.
Mike Timlin, hard throwing right-hander. He had a little trip down to the minor leagues early in September, tried to get straightened out, and recorded the most famous out in Toronto baseball history last year. He was the pitcher that fielded Otis Nixon's bunt and threw him out to end the 1992 World Series. See that sign by Pat Borders, I'm sure what the Blue Jays are going to guard against right here and be alert for if the White Sox might try to send Ventura, and if Borders were to throw to second, get Raines home.
Here's Ellis Burks. Ball 1. Raines is the runner at third. Ventura is over at first. Burks singled in the second, hit into a double play in the fourth, walked in the sixth. One and one.
Play I referred to a lot of times, a manager, in this case Gene Lamont, would wait and see if Burks got in the hole. If he falls behind in the count 1 and 2, that's when you're apt to see that attempted double steal.
Misses again, and now it's a ball and 2 strikes. Tony Castillo, the lefty, Mark Eichhorn stretching on the right. Burks fouls it off. Broken bat looper. Alomar is there, and that'll retire the White Sox here in the top of the 7th, but they get one back. 6-4 Chicago. Chicago in the lead, 6-4. Game 5 set for tomorrow afternoon here at Skydome. And then tomorrow night here on CBS, Game 4 of the National League Championship Series between the Phillies and the Braves in Atlanta. Danny Jackson will go for Philadelphia. John Smoltz for Atlanta. New pitcher for the White Sox, Kirk McCaskill.
Working out of the bullpen for the first time in his career. He was an outstanding starter with the California Angels, member of that team in 1986 when they won the division. Battled back from some elbow surgery, and Jackie Brown said his stuff is as good as it's ever been. He's done a great job for the White Sox.
Here's John Olerud. That 5+ ERA is deceptive for McCaskill. There's a liner into right field. Ellis Burks makes the catch, and looks like he had to fight the lights to do it.
I'm sure with Olerud leading off this inning, that's the decision. We had a shot of Nick Leyva on the dugout during the top of the 7th as Burks fights that ball out of the lights. Balls hit on that trajectory are always difficult for an outfielder to pick up. Had Leyva not sent the runner home, Alomar in the bottom of the 6th, Olerud would have been the hitter, but of course then he would have been facing Scott Radinsky. And that's why with 2 outs, most of the time third base coaches take an aggressive approach, make the outfielder throw the runner out.
Paul Molitor 0 for 2 with a walk. Ball 1. We run some college football scores of the day past you. Florida State, a big win over Miami today. And Michigan State upsetting the Wolverines. The reason I said that ERA of McCaskill's of over 5 is deceptive. In his last 13 relief appearances, it's at 1.74. He has been a much more effective pitcher out of the bullpen for Chicago. Fly ball, left center field. Raines is there. And that's 2 out. In Kirk McCaskill and in the pitcher who preceded him, Tim Belcher, we've seen the only 2 Chicago pitchers that had any postseason experience coming into this series.
McCaskill, a 17-game winner for California. That's the postseason series he appeared in. 1986, and Tim Belcher, member of the world champion Dodgers, 1988.
Here's Tony Fernandez. Ball one. Looking ahead to tomorrow, Guzman scheduled for the Blue Jays, McDowell for the White Sox. That's how it looks in the dugout.
Those numbers to the left of Ed Sprague's name are what you mentioned earlier in the game. He made the last out, 3 different innings. That's what coaches, managers keep track of on the lineup card.
2-1. Sounds like a broken bat. Fernandez will go get another one. We are live at Skydome in another packed house for Game 4 of the American League Championship Series. The White Sox leading at 6-4. We're in the last of the 7th inning. Nobody on and 2 out for the Blue Jays, who won the first 2 games of this series in Chicago. And unless they can rally from 2 down, the White Sox will have taken the next 2 games here in Toronto. That one's fouled away. 51,889 on hand tonight. And the count is full now to Fernandez at 3-2.
White Sox looking for just 1 more out. Innings 8 and 9, they'll turn it over to Radinsky and Hernandez.
Full count pitch. Fouled off.
Well, you can see the change that Kirk McCaskill's made as a relief pitcher, and that's one of the reasons so many of the Toronto hitters are late on the fastball. His reputation is that of a curveball pitcher. You can see Fernandez up there sitting on the curveball, and the fastball getting right by him, right in on the hands.
3-2 pitch, base hit left field. That'll bring Ed Sprague to the plate. And as we mentioned, you saw Sprague's name on the lineup card. He ended the inning in the 2nd, the 3rd, and the 5th. And has a chance to do it again here in the 7th.
He's gonna nail one right here.
That's a called strike. We talk about the lost opportunities that Chicago had back at Comiskey Park. Should the Blue Jays lose this one, they will have stranded already 9 runners tonight, and Sprague has stranded 6 of them himself.
Other than tonight's game, when Lance Johnson has taken matters into his hands, it has been a series of 2-out hits. Blue Jays got them in games 1 and 2, the White Sox last night.
Ground ball. Ventura will go across the diamond. Scooped by Frank Thomas. Sprague ends an inning again after 7. 6-4 White Sox.
This game summary is sponsored by AT&T.
Well, if things stay as they are, Lance Johnson will certainly be the man of the hour in the Chicago clubhouse with a home run and a triple and 4 RBIs. That's a career high for him. The White Sox lead at 6-4 as we move to the 8th inning. And the question I have for you, Jim Cott, is whatever happened to home field advantage?
Not going to see it. It appears in this league championship series. It's the first time it will have occurred if the White Sox hold on to this and win the first 2 games on the road as the Blue Jays did in Chicago.
It's been an unusual turn of events for the visiting team. As we start the 8th inning, Bo Jackson, Lance Johnson, Ron Karkovice. Strike one. Jackson, a ground out, and 2 walks. You'd have to think that that really would bother Cito Gaston, because you're going to have Bo Jackson at least show you that he can hit the baseball.
I think that's a respect for what Bo can do with his power. The book on him, the pitch that Timlin just threw, high fastballs and breaking balls away, but he has a tendency to chase a lot of those. But if you leave anything in the middle of the plate with not a lot on it, we've seen what he can do.
Fouled at the plate, 2-2. Reference to shoeless Joe Jackson, the 1919 White Sox. Strike 3 called. That's a 96-mile-an-hour fastball from Mike Timlin. And that brings up Lance Johnson, who homered in the 2nd and then in the 6th inning. With a couple of teammates aboard. Triple to right center field. And swings on the first pitch and fouls it back.
It's got to be his biggest game in total footage in the big leagues. Figure about 800 feet with a triple and a home run.
Get paid by the meter, yeah. He'd be doing okay today.
Yeah, he's a singles hitter. Did mention he led the American League in triples again for the 3rd straight year.
Not since Ted Kluszewski had 5 RBIs in Game 1 of the '59 World Series. As a White Sox player, had as many RBIs in a postseason game. Line drive right back at Timlin. Nice play by Timlin, but Lance Johnson has just been on the baseball tonight.
Look what I found. Mike Timlin finishes in square position. That's the only thing that enables him to get the glove up in time. Or Lance Johnson would have hit a 3rd hit.
Here's Ron Karkovice. Swing and a miss. Do pitchers sit bolt upright in the middle of the night dreaming of things like that?
It's almost like, have you ever had a butterfly flutter past and you just instinctively reach out with your hand? That's the reaction that a pitcher has when he sees that white blur coming back toward him. A little faster, though.
It's a butterfly with jet engines strapped to its back. Joe Carter pulls in the fly ball, and we'll go to the last of the 8th inning with Chicago in the lead and looking to pull even in the ALCS.
Have one of those and watch a ball game. Only place in the North America you can do that.
Take that and that and that. Pat Borders looks at strike 2 from Kirk McCaskill. White Sox leading at 6-4. Kirk McCaskill on the mound for Chicago. Borders, Ricky Henderson, Devon White due up in this inning. One and 2. Tis the season of the Blue Jays. Borders, practically in self-defense, fouled that one off. Meanwhile, the Chicago bullpen, Roberto Hernandez, the right-hander, Scott Radinsky, the lefty.
Radinsky, in case Gene Lamont would like to turn the switch hitters around. Devon White and Roberto Alomar would be due up when the lineup turns over.
Swing and a miss, and he beat him inside.
It's a better fastball than Kirk McCaskill's had in a long time, and I think that's why you're seeing the Blue Jay hitters react a little late to it. Perfect spot after a couple of breaking balls. Look how tied up Borders was. No chance to get the barrel to that ball.
Here's Ricky Henderson. He has reached once in 4 trips to the plate. He walked in the 6th, moved around and scored on the Robbie Alomar double. 1 out in the bottom of the 8th. A single base runner would bring the tying run to the plate for Toronto. Henderson is 13 for 32 in his career against Kirk McCaskill with a couple of home runs. That's called strike 1-1. Ducks away from that one. It's 2-1. History tells us the White Sox have never lost a postseason game that they led after 7 innings. They are 13-0 in that department. Two. I don't know if it's Ricky just hasn't been comfortable, but he hasn't gotten the bat off the shoulder with any regularity in this series.
And when he has been on base, the only time he stole, he swiped third base in a situation that he didn't have to last night with 2 out. But he has not been a threat at all on the bases or on the plate.
And count is now full to Henderson at 3-2, and it seems an awful lot of at bats he's had a full count on it. Each team has used 3 pitchers. Todd Stottlemyre started for Toronto. Al Leiter and Mike Timlin followed. Jason Beret started. Tim Belcher came on in the 3rd. McCaskill in the 7th. 3 balls, 2 strikes to Ricky Henderson. Ball 4. And here comes Gene Lamont. Gene Lamont is going to do exactly what you said, Jim. He's going to bring Scott Radinsky in to make Devon White and Robbie Alomar hit from the right side of the plate. McCaskill leaves. Radinsky comes on. We take a time. Welcome back to Toronto. 1 on, 1 out for the Blue Jays, bottom of the 8th inning, and Scott Radinsky, who made a career-high 73 appearances in the regular season, is the new Chicago pitcher.
Hard-throwing left-hander, not a lot of tricks to what Radinsky does. He just kind of lifts that leg and fires it toward home. Nothing smooth about the pitching motion, but a live fastball, tough on left-hand hitters, and in this case, he switches White around to the right side where he's not as good a hitter.
Hit 254 from the right side, and he swings and fouls. That compares with 281 from the left side. White hit 15 home runs during the season, but only 3 of them right-handed.
I think with 2 out, we would have seen Roberto Hernandez, but because of that disparity in the batting averages and Devon White so tough to double up from the left side, Gene Lamont says, I want to see him hit from the right side of the plate.
Roberto Alomar will follow Devon White. Short center. Here comes Johnson and makes the catch. So that's 2 out with Henderson on at first, and here's Robbie Alomar, who has come alive tonight with a single and a double and 2 RBIs in 4 trips. mother and his dad, Sandy Alomar Sr.
Good major league player in his own right, and not one but two sons starring in the major leagues. Other son, Sandy, catcher with the Cleveland Indians.
Ball one. If I'm not mistaken, Sandy Alomar Sr., a former member of the Chicago White Sox.
And the Angels and the Yankees.
That's called strike. 0-2 to Robbie Alomar, who hits .245 right-handed, .356 left-handed. So you follow Gene Lamont's thinking here. Go back to what you said earlier in the evening about how Wilson Alvarez's complete game performance allowed Gene Lamont to work his bullpen with more flexibility tonight.
And he still will not have to use Hernandez till the 9th inning.
Henderson fakes the break. 1-2. Saw 3 of these in action tonight for the Blue Jays. Todd Stottlemyre and Robbie Alomar and Ed Sprague.
Ed Sprague's father, Ed, a major league relief pitcher, now a scout.
Count is 2 balls and 1 strike. In the air. Ventura drifting, has room, and that'll do it for Toronto here in the 8th. Toronto has left 11 men on tonight. We go to the 9th. Chicago leading it by 2. Cott and I will select the Chevrolet Most Valuable Player of the game, and Chevrolet will donate $1,000 on that player's behalf to the Special Olympics.
Now, I wonder who would have the leg up on that award in this game. Could we think of one? You know, I think if Cito Gaston could think of one decision to make to go back to the 6th inning, things happened so fast after the Thomas home run. 2 out, he walked back-to-back hitters, and he didn't get Al Leiter in the game quickly enough. Johnson had a chance to knock in 2 more runs.
Lance Johnson with a homer and a triple. And 4 runs batted in for the White Sox. We start the 9th. Ozzie Guillen looks at strike 1. It'll be Guillen, Raines, and Cora. White Sox would love to add a little bit more insurance, and Toronto would love to not get to see Frank Thomas here in the top of the 9th.
Now, most of the time you feel comfortable with your ace closer coming into the game, even with a 1-run lead. But when you're looking at hitters like the Blue Jays have, you can bet Gene Lamont, if he can get a base runner, is going to play for an extra one here.
It's a foul. Looking ahead to the Toronto 9th, Joe Carter, John Olerud, Paul Molitor. Blue Jays 3 outs away from seeing a 2-0 lead dissipate. Foul ball.
And the key at bats in both of these games, Wilson Alvarez last night struck out Tony Fernandez, bases loaded with those good curveballs. Tim Belcher comes in tonight in the 3rd inning in a situation where Toronto could have blown it open, and strikes out Fernandez on a fastball. He got out of that bases loaded 1-out jam. That's what's given Chicago a chance to win this game.
Lost opportunities for the Blue Jays tonight, much the way the White Sox lost opportunities in the first 2 games in Chicago.
And we said at the start of the series, the deeper this goes, the more the advantage goes to the White Sox. Talking tonight around the batting cage to some of the Blue Jay coaches and players, the most impressive pitcher has been Alex Fernandez, even though he lost game 2. And Jackie Brown, the pitching coach, said it was Fernandez's job in that game that I think gave Alvarez and the other members of the staff the confidence that they could shut down this lineup.
Guillen with a liner, right field. Carter back, makes the catch. Just like the catch he made in the 1st inning last night on Robin Ventura, only not at the warning track. But Joe Carter has been a defensive standout for Toronto.
Well, the little left-hand hitter showing power tonight. The Blue Jays play Guillen shallow, and it takes that leaping grab to take a probable triple away from Ozzie Guillen.
And should Toronto mount a threat in the last half of this inning, that's a big catch. There's a base hit to left field. That's a big catch now. Tim Raines with his 3rd hit of the night. You may recall he had 4 last night.
And now we should see the White Sox running game, trying to get that extra run.
Here's Joey Cora, who's 0 for 4 tonight, but his ground out in the 7th inning got run number 6 home for Chicago. Want to know the count? We'll remind you, tonight's telecast was produced by Bob Monsbach and directed by Mike Arnold. Baseball 93 was produced by George Veras. The senior producer of CBS Sports is Ed Gordon, and the executive in charge of production is Rick Gentile.
See Cora taking a look at both of those pitches. He's going to give Raines every opportunity to steal second base if he wants to.
The big hurt is in the on-deck circle. And now a conference at the mound.
Talking about the pitching matchups and the depth of the series. Again, McDowell and Guzman tomorrow, and then it'll be a rematch of Fernandez and Stewart. And Fernandez pitched just as well as Dave Stewart did in Game 2. The White Sox made a couple of errors, and he gave up 2 unearned runs. And then when you look at a possible Game 7, the Sox would have the advantage there again with Wilson Alvarez.
Here's Alex Fernandez. Pitched well enough to win in Game 2, but didn't have the bat support that the White Sox have shown here in Toronto. Up the middle, base hit center field. Raines will stop at second. So Joey Cora, his 1st hit of the night, Chicago's 10th.
With Tim Raines and Joey Cora saying, take that Toronto lineup. All the talk about the Blue Jays up at the top, but it's Raines and Cora that have done the damage. 2 hits in last night's game for Joey Cora. And the key hit of the game, the 2-out, 2-strike single.
And here's Frank Thomas. Up the middle to second for 1, and that's all they'll get. Timlin gets the force at second on Cora. And again, like last night, we see Frank Thomas going after the first pitch. We remind you that we'll be back here at Skydome 4 o'clock Eastern time tomorrow afternoon, with the first pitch scheduled at 4:10 for Game 5. Jack McDowell for Chicago, Juan Guzman for the Blue Jays.
Mentioned Thomas swinging at the first pitch. When you've been walked so often, it's only natural. You're going to be a little more anxious to swing that bat.
Just a little bit of daylight, and Mr. Thomas is going to go for it. Here's Robin Ventura with runners at 1st and 3rd and 2 out. Ball 1.
And that could have been a costly bobble by Mike Timlin. He fields that ball cleanly. He had it in his glove. That's an easy inning-ending double play. Now he's got to get out the left-hand hitting Ventura to keep it a 2-run deficit.
One and 1. 2-1 now on Ventura. Part of the Chicago contingent. He's part of the Chicago contingent too. He'll start game 5 here tomorrow. Jack McDowell. Inside, 3-1 now on Ventura, and Ellis Burks would be next. Down the right field line, fair ball. Raines scores. And a heck of a job by Joe Carter to hold Ventura to 1 base. But it's 7-4 Chicago.
And another big 2-out hit by the White Sox. Cito Gaston electing to stay with Timlin. He had left-hander Tony Castillo in the bullpen. And the reaction from the Chicago dugout. A little more breathing room for Roberto Hernandez.
Jim, you mentioned it. Timlin not playing the comebacker cleanly, and it's cost him a run. Here's Ellis Burks. Ball 1. Imagine, too, what would have happened had Joe Carter not made the leaping catch of the Ozzie Guillen liner to start this inning. That's inside, 2-0.
Big series for Tim Raines. 5 hits, 4 hits in last night's game.
3 more tonight. That's a strike. Burks 1 out of 3.
Dave Stewart in your picture on the far right appears that he's going to get another start.
Burks loops it foul down the left field line.
He will be the game 6 starter. Take that perfect 7-0 record into it.
That would be Tuesday night at Comiskey Park in Chicago. 2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 outs. White Sox with runners at first and third. White Sox on the verge of making this a best-of-3 series. Boy, it's a different look on the faces of Chicago ball players from what we saw during the Monday workout here. A Thursday workout. What day is it?
Day before game 5.
Chicago 7-11-0. Toronto 4-9-0. 2-2 pitch. Burks fouled again. We'll play game 5 tomorrow afternoon. Game 6 scheduled for Chicago Tuesday evening, and then game 7 Wednesday night at Comiskey Park. By the way, snow flurries are forecast for tomorrow here in Toronto. Another foul ball.
These teams hoping they're not forecast for Chicago early next week. Those games will be outdoors at night.
They aren't the only ones who are hoping that they aren't forecast for Chicago. Close proximity of Lake Michigan makes it even colder. Ellis Burke stubbornly fouling off pitch after pitch from Mike Timlin. Another 2-2 pitch, swing and a miss. But the White Sox get 3 outs from victory, but they've got to get past 3 big bats in the bottom of the 9th to do it. The White Sox with 2 in the 2nd, 3 in the 6th, 1 in the 7th, 1 in the 9th. Toronto 3 in the 3rd and 1 in the 6th inning. And the opportunity for many more. They have left 11 on base, and Roberto Hernandez has come on.
38 saves this year, but think about it, in the big leagues, he didn't get his first save until July of last year. Took over the closer's role, took it away from Bobby Thigpen, who's now pitching for the Phillies.
Joe Carter, John Willeroot, Paul Molitor, and the Blue Jays faithful making some noise. Carter's been the only one productive of the 3 tonight. He singled 2 runs home in the 3rd, singled again, and Ventura cuts this one off and throws him out.
Gold Glover at third base. Ventura shows you that lateral movement and then just gets his balance. Plenty of time to get Carter. Have to have foot speed at third base, just quickness, and Ventura has that.
Here's John Olerud. He has reached base once tonight. He was hit by a pitch in the 3rd inning. Other than that, a ground out and 2 fly balls. Strike 1. That evens the count at 1-1. Where Roberto Hernandez ranked among the American League saves leaders. Wayne Ward in the Toronto bullpen and Jeff Montgomery tied for the lead in the American League. Sharply hit. Cora on 1 bounce. 2 out. Jim, you mentioned again how the complete game has helped. Now, what about the use of so many pitchers tonight? How does that affect Gene Lamont for tomorrow?
Well, he's got confidence that Jack McDowell is going to give him 7 or 8 solid innings. And he used each pitcher just enough. Now, I wouldn't think Belcher would come back tomorrow, but McCaskill didn't pitch very much, and neither did Scott Radinsky, so they'd both be available for tomorrow's game.
Jason Beret started. Belcher came on in the 3rd, McCaskill in the 7th, Radinsky in the 8th, and Hernandez here in the 9th. Ball 1 to Paul Molitor. Molitor 0 for 3 with a walk. Never before in LCS history has the visiting team won in each of the first 4 games, but with 1 more out, that's what'll happen here. Up the middle. Guillen back of second, and the throw, and the White Sox are winners for the 2nd straight night. And the American League Championship Series is tied at 2.
Thanks to that man and Tim Belcher's effective relief pitching in the early part of this game.
The Chevrolet player of the game is Lance Johnson of the Chicago White Sox with a home run, a triple, and 4 RBIs, and Chevrolet will donate $1,000 on his behalf to the Special Olympics. And so for Jim Cott and Pat O'Brien, I'm Greg Gumbel saying so long from the Skydome, where the final score is Chicago 7 and Toronto 4. This series now tied at 2 games apiece. You've been watching Major League Baseball on CBS Sports, home of the biggest games in baseball. Good night, everyone.